drawing of Batman, and um, I thought it was epic. And apparently so did my grandpa, because as soon as he saw it, he pulled out his wallet, started flashing good old George Washingtons at me, and I knew that this was my future. I wanted to create things for people. So, as I grew older, I got asked the infamous question, what do you want to do when you grow up? And when I would reply, be an artist, the response I got back was less than confident. People would be like, oh, an artist, how creative, but what do you want to do to make money? And I didn't really understand this disconnect between what working was and what making money was. Well, as I matured, I got asked the same question, and I started considering trade jobs because they allowed for more creativity and just kind of openness, and that's the kind of thing I've been looking for. Well, this was also accepted with some hesitance. People would say like, oh, jobs for people who can't get into college, or aren't those jobs for people who aren't going to go anywhere in life? And to this I say, I don't think so. I think trade jobs are a great job for the future. Now, when I refer to trade jobs throughout this talk, I'm referring to people who do work with their mind and their bodies. People like mechanics or electricians, and even to a point programmers. People that use mental power and willpower to complete a task. Oops. Now, by the end of this talk, I hope you can see that trade jobs, they're more open to creativity, and they actually need creativity to be successful. They are a job that can create fulfillment and pride in what you do, and they're a job that has a really, really bright future. Now, let's start with where creativity went and how we can bring it back. In the 19th century, the Industrial Revolution came about, and the Industrial Revolution caused a kind of influx into the cities where factories jobs became popular because of the mass population growth. Now, this was necessary to keep population growth up, but because things were being produced by machines now and less by people, things became less customized, and overall creativity started going down the drain. But this wasn't really that big of a deal. Things were still slightly custom. People still had to do labor work. They had to learn how to fix their machines if they broke in the factory. But overall, creativity started going down the drain. In the late 20th century, things changed a lot. People were moved from factories into cubicles in front of number-crunching machines. And this is where a creative vacuum was kind of formed. People no longer used creativity in their job. They would just crunch numbers and do assigned tasks. And more often than not, creativity was frowned upon in the workplace. On top of this, more on today's standards, by today's workplace standards, there aren't as many people in factories. Most of our factories are filled with machines like this that do 90% of the work, and people are left with the 10% of the work that are number crunching and figuring out how they can make profits. So this leaves no space for creativity. But this isn't necessarily a bad thing. This is something that is necessary to keep up our economy and to keep up with the consumer needs. But that's not necessarily what people want right now. Right now, people are looking for something that they can hold on to, that's creative and that's unique. And so certain trade jobs are kind of revitalizing. In the last few years, an influx of art and custom clothing and really custom anything sales have boomed because of apps like Etsy and other online and non-online selling non-online because of other non-online selling stores. Just go with that. So because of this, there's been kind of a re-influx of classic professions like cobbling and woodworking, and this has allowed for people to kind of customize their own job and sell for a lot higher of a price because people actually want these custom personalized items. Something that hasn't happened in a long time that we can now do today, and that allows for creativity and job growth and just overall a cooler workplace experience. Now, over the last few months, I've taken on several trade jobs. I hoped to work on shoes. Sadly, that didn't work out, but I have been doing. I've been designing shirts for bands and for sports teams. I've also been working with Miss Garcia in taking apart and rebuilding the insides of some of her sewing machines that don't work, and we actually got all of them to work. So that's pretty cool. And I've also been working on my truck. And these are all considered trade jobs. You have to work with people to figure out what they want and fix things that need to be fixed. Now, my day job is lifeguarding, and lifeguarding doesn't provide the same experience that these jobs provide. These jobs allow me to relate to a customer and build relations with them. It allows me to figure out what they want and figure out how to convey my own ideas to them so that they like it. Now, lifeguarding doesn't allow me to do this, and this is one thing that trade jobs do that a lot of jobs in today's workplace don't do. They allow you to build relations and build a community around your job. Now, one of the other things I mentioned earlier was work. Pride and fulfillment is an important part of today's world. We like to feel good about ourselves, but with today's workplace, the feel-good system in our brain fires up very little when we complete a task, but more often when we get a bonus or when we get those little gifts that are like, thank you for working for our company. But with trade jobs, it's different. Your reward system in your brain fires up after you complete every task because you put your own sweat and blood into creating that or into working that job. You feel more accomplished after every task you do rather than just hitting submit and going on to the next thing you have to do. Personally, the one thing that I found that I got attached to doing my trade jobs was my car. My car is a 25-year-old tin scrap, but I love the thing because over the last few months, I've spent a ton of money and a ton of work researching this car and replacing parts by hand with a guidebook and my grandpa. And this car has become family to me and more of a hobby than anything, and I wouldn't get rid of it. I wouldn't have thought that 5 months ago. 5 months ago, I would have gotten rid of it and gotten any other car. Well, this is actually pretty common with trade jobs. For instance, there's a book called Shop Class, Soulcraft, written by Matthew Crawford, and this is about a dude who started working on a motorcycle and then eventually formed his whole life around building and reworking motorcycles. And I think that's awesome because this is a real life example that's not just me, of other people who go into a profession and not only do they like it, but it becomes their passion. And not only do they make money off of it, but they love doing it. So any job that can become a hobby is obviously one that's going to have a high workplace happiness rate. And that's something that trade jobs can give you. Now, the future for trade jobs is something you want to look into. The future is something you want to look into when you're going into a job. With trade jobs, the future is actually looking really bright. Right now, we have a gap in the economy where we have a high demand for jobs that need to get done because of machines working in factories, but then very few people who want to do those jobs and who can do those jobs because they're being told to go on to different professions such as nursing or doctoring, stuff like that. Well, this gap is going to get increasingly larger because according to research by the Manhattan Institute, the baby boomers in the next 10 to 15 years are going to be retiring, about 60% of them. And a lot of their jobs are trade jobs. Most of the mechanics we have today are trained by the baby boomers that came from the wars in the 70s. So most of these people are going to be retiring, and this is a gap that's going to be increasing over the next few years because specialized mechanics such as vacuum line mechanics and electricians, they're slowly depleting in numbers, but we're getting more and more electronical in the years coming, and we need those people to do those jobs. So, in other words, trade jobs right now are looking brighter than ever because people need them, and so they can make more money off the one thing they do, which is create stuff, and they can do the same job without having to work more. So, if you're looking to go into a profession, trade jobs are not only a good choice, but they're looking to be a great choice. They're a job that can not only fulfill your need to make money, but they can fulfill your need to be needed, one, and to have a passion. They can become what you love to do.